Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. Alasdair MacIntyre is going to finish up his essay, Is Patriotism a Virtue?, in the fourth and fifth part by saying, listen, we've actually got a real thorny problem here. We've looked at the charges that the different perspectives, liberal morality, a universalist sort that says we have to abstract from any particularity, and the morality that recognizes patriotism as something central, indeed as important. We could say patriotism construed as a virtue, patriotism construed as a vice by the different overarching perspectives. And he's going to say that they can both bring kind of mirror image charges against each other. Now, these are not the same charge, but they are the mirror image of each other in that within modernity, both of them have a position against the other. So he says that the charge that the morality of patriotism can successfully bring, right? So it's at least rhetorically successful against liberal morality is the mirror image of that which liberal morality can successfully urge against the morality of patriotism. We seem to have an impasse. Well, what are those charges? The liberal moralist is able to conclude patriotism is a permanent source of moral danger. Why? Because of the way it places our ties to our nation beyond rational criticism, right? So that's a charge that can be made. The morality of patriotism also is going to say liberal morality is a permanent source of moral danger. Why? Because of the way it renders our social and moral ties too open to dissolution by rational criticism. And you could say it's kind of a Goldilocks opportunity here. One is too open, too universalist, and perhaps too rational. The other one is too closed, too particular, not rational enough. MacIntyre's not going to go that way. He is going to say, look, both of these parties are right against the other party. So they are legitimate criticisms, not just successful rhetorically, but rationally. So this is going to be a big problem, right? Then he goes on in part 5, the concluding section of the essay, and says, okay, the fundamental task which confronts any moral philosopher who finds this conclusion compelling is going to be clear. It's to inquire whether, although the central claims made on behalf of these two rival modern moralities cannot both be true, maybe we ought to move towards the conclusion that both sets of claims are actually false. So we don't have to choose between one or the other, right? They are not contradictories logically where if one is true, the other one must be false, and if the other one is false, the other one must be true. They are rather like contraries. Both of them could be false. And now that's an interesting thing to say, not least since MacIntyre says, well, they are both partially true as well. They embody some sort of truth. So then he's going to talk about historical perspective. And the first thing that he says might be a little off-putting. He says that, this is an inquiry in which progress has already been made, but history in its impatience does not wait for moral philosophers to complete their tasks, let alone to convince their fellow citizens. Something that I think a lot of moral philosophers often confuse. They think, well, if we can just produce some sort of analysis and write a book about it, then our task is over. No, you actually have to reach out and convince your fellow citizens within whatever community you're in. And that's where it doesn't happen all that often. I mean, MacIntyre himself could be said to be partially successful. John Rawls, Robert Nozick, we can think of some others as well. And he points out the interesting case of Aristotle, right? At the very time that Aristotle is writing about the polis as the central institution, it's no longer the central institution, right? He's part of the Macedonian hegemony, which is going to break into successor states, and there are certainly city-states after that, but they don't have the kind of comprehensiveness of life that Aristotle is ascribing to him. So Aristotle's already anachronistic by the time that he is writing, and he says that, maybe that's what's happening with us as well. He says any contemporary philosopher who discusses the key conceptions that have informed modern political life since the 18th century is in danger of reliving Aristotle's fate. The owl of Minerva really does seem to fly at dusk, famous statement by Hegel, who he's going to bring up a little bit later, meaning that we can only look backwards, right? We can only have knowledge afterwards. And MacIntyre wants to try to shift out of that, but he's not going to have, some sort of comprehensive claim to understanding our situation because we're still in it. So he says, okay, does that mean that my argument here is devoid of any immediate practical significance? And he says, well, that would be true if the conclusion that a morality of liberal impersonality and a morality of patriotism must be deeply incompatible, if that realization didn't have any practical significance for understanding our own contemporary everyday politics, but it does have some sort of important practical application. So he says this lets us actually recognize a central flaw, as he's going to say it, in the political life characteristic of modern Western states, or at least, he says, all those modern Western states which look back for their legitimation to the American and French revolutions. And that's kind of an interesting thing to say, because you would think that that would exempt, for example, the Great Britain that MacIntyre originally came from. He's Scots. He emigrates to America, which is what he's going to talk about largely in this essay. But you could think, has Great Britain actually embraced a lot of these ideas? And the answer would be yes. So really, a lot of states are running along these sorts of lines. And he says that how do we contrast these sorts of states? He says, polities so established have tended to contrast themselves against the older regimes that they displaced. How so? By saying that, all previous polities had expressed in their lives partiality, one-sidedness of local customs, institutions, and traditions, they, for the first time, gave expression in their constitutional and institutional forms to the impersonal and impartial rules of morality as such common to all rational beings. So he brings up, Robespierre and the French Revolution, great example of that. But he also talks about the American polity as well. He says in the 19th century, the United States produced its own version of this claim. So notice he doesn't say in the 18th century, in 1776, he's talking more about how America developed and conceptualized its own project over time and taught that to people who were part of that project. And he says, this was one whose rhetoric provided the content for many 4th of July orations, and the level of education set standards for Americanization of the late 19th century and early 20th century immigrants, especially those from Europe. And we might expand this in other ways. We could say, within even those regimes, or within those polities, America, France, there have been times where this is redone, with, for example, expanding the franchise through giving women the vote and civil rights and becoming, multi-ethnic by choice, at least for some of the population. Polities, right? So the transition to the, post-war French Fourth Republic to the Fifth Republic, or the changes in American politics, which some people are trying to roll back in the present. And what he has to say has implications for that as well. So he's going to talk here about a contrast that Hegel makes within his works very early on in the Phenomenology of Spirit, which MacIntyre is very familiar with. He actually edited an entire volume on Hegel. So he says Hegel employs a useful distinction, which he marks by the use of two German terms, Sittlichkeit, which we often translate as customary ethics or something like that. He calls it the customary morality of each particular society. And then moralitet, a more universal, but also, we could say deracinated, rationalist approach to morality. And he says that what those immigrants were taught, in effect, is that they had left behind countries and cultures where Sittlichkeit and Moralität were distinct and often opposed. Right? So Sittlichkeit is the morality of where you're from, and then Moralität is the universal morality that you as a rational being, regardless of where you came from, regardless of your class, regardless of your gender, regardless of any sort of particularity about yourself, can be understood and endorsed. Here's where it gets really interesting. He says that in America, we get a blending of these two things. He says in America, the cause of America, and what he means there is what he's talked about earlier, the country as a project, understood as the object of patriotic regard, and as the cause of morality, understood as the liberal moralist understands it, comes to be identified. So to be American means both being patriotic for this particular country and at the same time to view that country as providing the universal morality, which, is indeed how a lot of Americans have looked at things and often tick other people off in the world by pretending like American morality is indeed morality as such. Right? Even calling it America, right? We have the Americas, and then we have the United States of America, which gets called America. Prime example of this identification, which he says leads to a confusion and incoherence. So he says a morality of particularist ties and solidarities gets conflated with a morality of universal, impersonal, and impartial principles in a way that can never be carried through without incoherence. Doesn't stop people from trying to do it, but you're ultimately going to end up in incoherence. And so what we can say, interestingly, you can look at the proposals to do this, America is this, we're going to move towards greater and greater incorporation of everybody into this polity, and it doesn't matter where you're from, we're all Americans together, right? That's one vision of it. You might say, well, what about the regressive forces that want to go back to a previous America, the MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, associated with heritage Americans. That's just another version of this. they think that they're preaching something universal. They call it Western culture or the spirit of America or the meaning of the founders. But they're just doing the same thing. They just disagree about what exactly the universal morality looks like and who gets included in it and who should be subordinated, right? So it's not incompatible with that point of view. And the incoherence is there on both sides. So MacIntyre is going to conclude this by saying one way we could empirically test whether the argument I've constructed has application and practical significance would be to do the following. To see whether it's illuminating to write a certain kind of history, a political and social history of America as a subject that in key part is living out a central conceptual confusion, not a coherent narrative, a narrative that is locally coherent but doesn't all add up, that has incompatibilities, tensions, perhaps even contradictions within it. And he says that furthermore, this has to be understood as a confusion perhaps required for the survival of a large-scale modern polity, which has to exhibit itself as liberal in many institutional settings, but which also has to be able to engage the patriotic regard of enough of its citizens if it's to function effectively, right? So you've got to have both of these sides. If we're going to use the Hegelian thing, you need both Sittlichkeit and Moralität, and that produces incoherencies. So what if instead of trying to make a history in which, we can clearly identify the goodies, the baddies, and say America is, still on the way to progress, or progress went the wrong way and now we need to turn the clock back. What if we actually had a history that was more realistic, honest about where we are? A lot of people wouldn't like that, actually. Both advocates of the liberal morality and advocates of what they take to be patriotism probably would be unhappy with such a history. But that would be a much more honest history, MacIntyre says. And so, to determine whether or not that's true would be to risk something that could be scary. Discovering that we inhabit a kind of polity whose moral order requires systematic incoherence in the form of public allegiance to mutually inconsistent sets of principles. And that's where he ends. He says, actually doing that work, that lies beyond the scope of this lecture, but he's setting out the conceptual framework for a history if somebody did indeed want to write that sort of history, which I think certainly some people have taken stabs at.